Imagine this, 5 years ago, I was standing on the precipice of a life I had painstakingly built. A wedding date set, a woman I had loved since high school by my side, and a family that, at least on the surface, seemed unwaveringly supportive. But that foundation? It wasn't just cracked, it was obliterated. The truth came crashing down like a tidal wave, washing away every shred of trust one had ever known. Karen, my fiancée, my partner of over a decade, confessed to having an affair. And not just with anyone. No, she'd chosen the one person who could twist the knife deeper, my brother, Chris. She wasn't alone in this revelation. Both of them sat me down, flanked by my parents. They spoke as though they were narrating someone else's story, as though I wasn't the one being gutted in real time. Karen was pregnant. Not with my child, but with his. And with that announcement, they declared their intent to be together. The betrayal felt like suffocating under an avalanche. Karen and I had been together since junior year of high school, the quintessential couple everyone assumed would last forever. We'd weathered college, life's ups and downs, and now, as we planned to tie the knot, she decided to tear it all apart. Chris, my older brother, the one who was supposed to protect me, admitted he had always harbored feelings for her. He couldn't resist the urge to confess right after we got engaged. And Karen? She'd apparently been catching feelings too, indulging in moments of flirtation behind my back during family events, all while assuring me I was her future. The day they told me, I clung to the frayed edges of denial. "Come home with me," I pleaded to Karen, desperate to salvage what was left. But my mother, of all people, intervened. "This is their decision," she said firmly, as if loyalty to her own son didn't matter. Her focus? The unborn grandchild. She even accused me of being selfish for voicing my pain, insisting Karen didn't need my drama during such a delicate time. My father? He looked ashamed, but his silence spoke volumes. It was clear where his allegiance lay. Karen moved into my family's home shortly after. Her own parents wanted nothing to do with her after hearing the truth, and my mother, ever the doting future grandmother, welcomed her with open arms. Meanwhile, I was left to pick up the shattered pieces of my life. The wedding was canceled, the costs covered by my parents, a parting gift to the son they cast aside. I severed all ties with them that day, walking away from the people who had so thoroughly destroyed me. In the years that followed, I rebuilt, slowly and painfully. Therapy helped, but healing wasn't linear. Some wounds never fully close. From distant relatives, I learned that Karen and Chris had married and welcomed a son. A paternity test confirmed the baby was his, an unnecessary formality, but it eliminated any lingering questions. For 5 years, I lived in silence, far removed from their world. My father made occasional attempts to reach out, but I ignored them. Radio silence became my armor, a shield against reopening old wounds. Then, a week ago, my mother broke the silence. Her voice, strained with urgency, filled my inbox. Against my better judgment, I returned her call, curiosity getting the better of me. Her news was grim. Chris had been in a terrible accident, a hit and run. The impact had left him in a coma, his condition critical. As she sobbed, I braced myself for the inevitable request to visit the hospital. Despite everything, I was willing to show up. Tragedy has a way of cutting through bitterness, and I couldn't ignore the gravity of the situation. But her request? It blindsided me. She didn't just want me to visit, she expected me to step into Chris's role, Karen's partner, a father figure to their child. "They need you," she said, her voice dripping with entitlement. "I'm too old to manage it all." She wanted me to move in with them, to care for the family that had discarded me like yesterday's news. My temper flared. 5 years of silence, and this was her grand request? I told her, in no uncertain terms, that I wouldn't do it. Her argument grew louder, more desperate, but I refused to entertain it. Hanging up, I blocked her number once again, fury and disbelief coursing through me. The audacity! How could she expect me to step in, to sacrifice my peace for the people who had shattered me? That night, as anger simmered beneath the surface, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow for Chris and Karen. Their situation was dire, yes. But that didn't make it my responsibility. Not then. Not ever. Out of the two of them, my father had always been the calmer, more grounded one. So, when he started saying things that felt so utterly bizarre, it completely threw me. I asked him if he genuinely believed what he was saying. His response was unwavering. He did. He explained that Karen and I shared a history, complicated as it was, and reminded me that, no matter what had happened over the past 5 years, I was still family. Blood, he said, was thicker than all the drama. If anyone should step up in times like this, it had to be me. My mother's expectations, he argued, weren't unreasonable. That moment hit me like a punch to the gut. Now, I don't even know what to think. For a whole week, I've been dodging conversations with my family. I've ignored calls from relatives because I can't bear the thought of this coming up, of being forced to explain my decision. And yet, I can't shake the guilt creeping into the corners of my mind. Am I the villain here? Am I wrong for refusing to be the emotional and financial pillar they expect me to be? The truth is, what my mother is asking feels absurd. But rejecting it outright leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. I haven't even gone to the hospital to see my brother. The whole situation just feels off. The tension, the unresolved feelings, it's like a fog I can't see through. Talking to friends isn't an option either. They know too much about the history, about how things unraveled after my wedding was called off. This is a different kind of mess. That's why I'm here, reaching out for advice. Strangers might be the only ones who can offer an unbiased perspective. Friends and family come with baggage, with opinions colored by their own experiences. I need clarity because I feel like I'm teetering on the edge of something dangerous, like I'm being dragged back into that dark place I clawed my way out of when Karen and Chris shattered everything I thought I knew. Those were some of the hardest days of my life, and I can't go back there. Not again. So, I'm asking, pleading, really, if you have thoughts, no matter how blunt or uncomfortable, please share them. I need something to hold on to before I lose myself completely. The shouting began before I even had a chance to gather my thoughts. It wasn't just a heated exchange, it was loud enough to draw the neighbor's attention. At first, her tone seemed almost civil, opening with idle small talk. I responded politely, trying to match her neutral demeanor. But I couldn't keep it together for long. I had to ask her, why had she been spreading lies about me, painting me as the villain? It wasn't fair. I'd never wished ill on my family, not even after all they'd done to me. I just wanted to move on. But their constant interference made even that impossible. Years of bottled-up frustration came spilling out as I told her how hurtful their actions had been. I confessed that thinking of them as family had become almost impossible because they'd never treated me like one of their own. Disappointed didn't even begin to describe how I felt. I explained that I wasn't in the mood to talk, especially after a long day at work. If she had something important to say, she could bring it up another time. For a while, she listened in silence, nodding as if she understood. But when I expressed my unwillingness to continue the conversation, her calm facade shattered. Suddenly, she was yelling, claiming that she had come to apologize. She admitted that she and my father had been too angry to think clearly, upset that I hadn't stepped up for the family after my brother's accident. But then she conceded that maybe their treatment of me over the past 5 years had pushed me away. She even acknowledged that my refusal to visit my brother might stem from unresolved pain. She wanted us to reconcile for the sake of the family's emotional stability. Yet, when I made it clear I wasn't ready to engage, her tone turned venomous. She sneered that I should be grateful I even had a family. She threatened to cut me off completely, warning that she'd rally the rest of the relatives against me. Her accusations were absurd. She claimed I hadn't reacted sadly enough to the news of my brother's accident. What did she expect? A public display of anguish? Just because she couldn't see my face during that phone call didn't mean I wasn't affected. Despite everything, I had been deeply upset. But no explanation would satisfy her. Then she accused me of failing to step up for Karen and my nephew, saying it was proof of my indifference. She was twisting the narrative again, justifying their hostility with baseless claims. By this point, I was beyond exhausted. I turned and unlocked my door, stepping inside without another word. She tried to follow, but I slammed the door in her face. Through the door, I warned her to leave or I'd call the police. Finally, she relented, storming off with a string of curses and an ominous warning that I'd face the consequences soon. I didn't care what she meant. I just wanted peace.